TGP Rally's 15th season culminates in the Tiers 100th event at Chile. 25 drivers compete in the closely matched World Rally cars from the 2000s over gravel, snow and tarmac. This promises to go down to the wire, with several drivers all believing they have what it takes to win the ultimate prize. The championship got underway in Indonesia with Phil fastest out the gates, but only 400ths quicker than fellow two-time champion Roy. It was a tight affair with just 10 seconds covering the first 16 positions, including an impressive run for Kim, who missed out on the stage win by 1/10 of a second. Phil fell to third through the second stage though, with the slippery conditions catching the forward runner out. It was Roy who moved top, with an impressive time that saw him now 2 seconds clear of Dom. Fastest through though was Midnight, and by 5 seconds, a very impressive time that surprised the field as he claimed a first ever stage victory. Dom was finding his feet with the rally, and the fastest time on stage 3 meant he became the new leader. But with the top 5 covered by less than 10 seconds, the rally remained wide open. Roy then reclaimed the lead on the very next stage after running quickest. He was now 2 seconds ahead of Dom and a further 5 clear of Phil, with only the final run to come. Luca then became the 5th stage winner from as many stages, and moving himself up to 6th overall in the process. Court's impressive time saw him steal the podium away from Phil at the very end, while Dom was crucially 4 seconds faster than Roy, that saw him take victory by less than 2 seconds. So Dom took an early 8-point lead in the championship, with Roy and Court level for second thanks to Court's power stage placing. Luca and Phil completing the top 5. New Zealand hosted the second round of the championship, and Luca appeared to find the pace of his former self. The Manx man, without a win since season 10, opened a 6-second lead after the first 2 stages. It was closely fought behind, with Zach leading a charge of 7 drivers, who were all covered by 5 seconds in the fight for second. Court moved up 6 places to second through the next 2 stages, but his deficit to Luca up front had increased to a remarkable 15 seconds. There seemed to be no stopping the Subaru runner as he set the fastest time through 2 more stages. Phil had been running 5th before the 4th stage, but his solid start took a huge blow as clipping the banking sent his Ford into a tree. Big damage that he would have to carry for the remainder of the rally. Court was pushing hard to close the gap to Luca in the final leg of stages, but running wide at a fast left-hander meant he instead dropped a further 12 seconds. But for now, still just about held on to P2. While Luca increased his lead to 27 seconds after the 5th stage, there was just a few seconds between Court, Owen, Dom, Zach and John in the fight for second. Carrying damage from his previous stage crash, Court knew he had an uphill task to hold on to second, and pushing maybe a little too hard, flying off course once again meant he would fall to 7th overall. Owen was well placed to inherit Court's second position, but an error of his own meant he too would find himself dropping places right at the end. It was Dom who stole second on the final stage. Running as low as 7th only 2 stages ago, he had taken big advantage of all his rivals' mistakes. But out front, Luca had been untouchable and finished with a winning margin of 35 seconds as he cruised to an 8th career victory. Zach's 3rd position made it a trio of Subaru runners on the podium. The 2 Manx men were flying up front, with Dom and Luca now sitting pretty thanks to their early season victories. Court and Phil would need stronger results ahead to get in on the fight. It was time for a change of scenery as TGP Rally headed to Sweden for the only snow event of the campaign. A test unlike no other, 6 more challenging stages were ahead for the drivers. Luca carried on where he left off in New Zealand by setting the quickest time through the opening test. Only 2 tenths behind though was Roy, who was looking for his 4th victory in Sweden, and would be a real threat once again. It was a disastrous start for Court, however, dropping 30 seconds and already down in 21st after clipping a banking and rolling his Zora multiple times. The gap up front remained 2 tenths after the second stage, but it was Roy who now led the way from Luca, running 4 tenths faster than his rival. Owen is another to perform well on snow, and it was he who set the best time, 4 seconds quicker than anyone else, and now up to 3rd overall. Luca fought back through the next 2 stages to win both and build a healthy 12-second lead over Roy, with Owen a further 11 behind. Dom was running 4th and not too far behind Owen, but he had to keep an eye on Phil, who was narrowly behind him. He was starting to close the gap after a steady start. Through the penultimate stage, Phil's late push would come to an end as a heavy touch with the banking left him with a puncher, and not carrying a spare, he would have to complete the final stage with only 3 working tyres. There would be late drama for Owen too, who got offline and found his Ford upside down. Once again, there would be no podium for the unfortunate Englishman. This all meant that Dom was safe in third, and the second fastest time through the power stage confirmed the position and sealed a good haul of points from a rally he expected to struggle at. Court recovered well to finish 5th overall, making sure that he still scored strong points despite the opening stage mistake that left him 21st. Roy had set some great pace, but was ultimately no match for Luca up front. With further wins through the final 2 stages, Luca came home to secure victory, finishing an impressive half a minute clear of the opposition once again. Luca was now leading the championship, but it remained tight between the leading 2. Roy jumped ahead of Court into third, while Phil needed to turn around in fortunes quickly if he was to win a third Drivers' Championship. Japan was this season's sole asphalt test, with Luca looking for 3 consecutive wins over 3 different surfaces. And his hopes started strong, running quickest through Higashino, 2 seconds clear of Zach, while title rival Dom, who always struggles on this surface, down in 7th and already 8 seconds adrift. The second stage saw Owen Gilles Panizzi-Quembe set the quickest time, as he moved up 3 places from 5th to Luca's new closest rival. 17 seconds was lost for Zach, who had a brief scare halfway through the stage, falling from 2nd to 6th. Court had been touted as one of the pre-season favourites, but the Dutchman had surprisingly struggled so far, and already 5 seconds adrift after 2 stages on his preferred surface meant he was pushing hard to make up the time on rally leader Luca. But when he clipped a pole on the edge of the road, once again it was game over in his hopes for victory. Owen was setting some fine pace through the penultimate stage, but running a little too quick near a fast right-hander meant his Zara was sent spinning and crucial time would be lost to Luca. Luca confirmed victory with the fastest run through the final stage. In the end, he was 17 seconds clear of Owen, who himself was a further 17 clear of Zach. Dom was fortunate to pick up a very solid 4th place finish, moving up 2 places on the final stage, thanks to the 3rd quickest time. Luca's lead increased to 17 points over his fellow Manxmen, as Owen and Zach jumped into 3rd and 4th respectively, thanks to their podium finishes in Japan. Mexico saw the championship return to gravel, and there was a surprise name setting the pace early on. A first ever stage victory for Calvin saw him take a 1-second lead over close friend Leon. The San Diego stage seeming to suit the 2 Welsh runners. 1.5 seconds was the difference between the 2 title contenders in 3rd and 4th, Dom coming out on top in the opening test. There was yet more misfortune for Court in Mexico, as confusion over 1 pace note saw him briefly driving the wrong way. It was a scruffy run that saw him drop 22 seconds to the leaders. Luca had been untouchable over the last 3 rounds, but here in Mexico a few mistakes had started to creep in. Through the second stage he would finish 16 seconds slower than his title rival, and falling to 5th overall. Dom took over up front with the fastest stage time, as Calvin and Leon's unbelievable opening stage pace was unable to be carried on. Zach had moved up the order to run 2nd, but a late puncher through Las Minas meant 16 seconds was thrown away. He was still 2nd overall though, but now 20 seconds away from Dom, who had once again set the fastest time. While Dom looked safe for victory, remarkably just 10 seconds was covering Zach in 2nd and Court in 8th, with the final stage to come. With such tight margins, it was either all to gain or all to lose for Luca, who was currently sat 4th overall. He had been setting some great pace, but a huge mistake late on in the final run would cost him dearly. 14 seconds was the time lost in total, so not only would he fall to 6th overall, but he would fail to score any power stage points too. Worse was to come for Court, who once again found himself falling down the order with contact against another indestructible object. His own slim title chances were now officially over. Zach was fastest through the final stage to confirm 2nd overall, as Jean held on to 3rd, just ahead of Calvin, Alistair and Luca. But it was a 5th career victory for Dom that would prove crucial in the championship battle. Dom retook the lead in the standings, but only 2 points clear of Luca, with 2 rounds to go. Zach was still within a chance in 3rd, as Jean moved back inside the top 5 thanks to his first podium of the season. The variable conditions and treacherous roads make Kenya the toughest round of the season. And proving just how tricky it can be, only half a minute into the first stage, championship leader Dom rolled his Mini and dropped 12 seconds. Phil was another to hit trouble early on, as he placed 15th after running into a large stone and picking up a double puncher in the process. Court was fastest through the opening stage to take the lead early on, while Aidan, Luca and Zach were all within 3 seconds. Dom responded strongly through the second stage by setting the fastest time, but only 400s quicker than Aidan, who now found himself in a shot lead of the rally. That's because Court threw away valuable time after twice cutting a corner that handed him a 5-second penalty for each. Over the next 2 stages, Aiden then increased his lead by a further 5 seconds, while Luca placed narrowly ahead of title rival Dom, with just over a second covering the pair in the fight for P2. Owen was showing signs of great pace in Kenya, for having himself picked up a couple of corner cut penalties. He was 8th overall after the 4th stage. That improved to P4 though, as he ran an impressive 6 seconds quicker than anyone else through the penultimate stage. Aiden continued to lead, while the gap between Luca and Dom was down to 4/10. There was a late scare for Aiden that almost undid all of his hard work. Making heavy contact with this rock left him carrying big damage to the end. But thanks to the lead he had already built up, he was able to confirm a remarkable victory, his first in the tier. On the final stage, Dom set a time that was second fastest in his attempt to overturn Luca. And when the forward runner overshot a junction late on, it was enough to allow Dom to leapfrog his rival. Owen was only 8/10 off the podium, while Zach came home in 5th. Dom's lead increased to 10 points with just the final round to come, while Zach, Owen and John remained in a tight fight for 3rd overall. Chile was the league's 100th rally, and to mark the occasion not only would it be the title decider, but the event would be the longest yet, with the winning time likely to be just shy of 40 minutes. Luca's task was simple: achieve the best possible result and hope Dom was a further few places behind. Through the opening stage, Luca did just that, running second quickest while Dom could only manage the 5th best time. In his previous 2 guest appearances, Roy had made the podium both times. He was looking to continue that form, and he would set the quickest time through the first 2 stages, building up an early 9-second advantage. Luca started to show signs that maybe the pressure was getting to him. A tap with a hay bale through the second stage resulted in radiator damage. That meant he would fall to 6th, crucially now 2 places behind Dom. Zach, Owen and Court were all likely to play a part in how the title was decided, with this trio closely matched with Dom and Luca. 4 seconds the difference between all 5 drivers in the fight for second. The big test of the rally was the 17-kilometre Las Pataguas stage, and this would mark the end of Luca's own title hopes. Less than 20 seconds into the stage, when the rear of his Subaru ran into a tree, it spun him round and left him with a puncher. Just minutes later, he would call it a day and park up his battered car. Dom knew from the start that this would be one event he would likely struggle at, but despite sitting 5th after 4 stages, it didn't really matter anymore. Up front, Roy was looking safe for victory, with his lead increasing to 12 seconds over Owen after the 4th stage. Dutchman Court had suffered so much bad luck in season 15, but here in Chile we were seeing the pace that many had expected from him at the start of the campaign. Running quickest through the power stage and by 5 seconds meant he sealed a spot on the podium. It should have been 3rd, but late drama for Owen, who himself was pushing hard for power stage glory, rolled his Subaru and lost big time to those around him. He had held a 21-second advantage over Dom in 5th, but all of this meant he lost 21.4 seconds, handing a late gift to Dom that could well have sealed him the title had Luca not already crashed out. Roy had controlled the rally, and with no late scare for the Irishman, he secured victory with a final winner margin of almost 17 seconds. Court pipped Zach to 2nd by just 6/10, while 4th for Dom was enough to seal a 2nd driver's title. In the end, Dom's advantage over Luca was 25 points. Zach sealed 3rd overall, thanks to his 4th podium of the season, as Owen just held on to 4th ahead of Court. Roy pipped John to 6th, while Phil will be disappointed to finish down in 8th. Leon took the Welsh bragging rights in 9th, beating Calvin by 10 points. TGP Rally never fails to disappoint, and this, the 15th season, saw a new rally winner, multiple new stage winners, and a campaign that competed over the most number of stages in the league's history. It's Dom who wins out in his battle with Luca, but with new cars and events to come, and some returning faces, the next challenge is sure to mix up the field once again.